Good afternoon and welcome. I just wanted to invite everybody. Actually wanted to thank everybody for attending. We're here today with the OEC Commissioner Beth Bye, and if Beth could turn her computer, her video on, that would be great. But we're here with Beth. We're here to discuss Mother's Day. I want to thank you all for joining us. This is our inaugural first lunch and learn with YWCA Hartford region. So you're the first people to get to see how we do this. Forgive us as we work through this. It's kind of like everything we've done with COVID. We're kind of building the ship as we go along. So I don't hear Beth. Oh, I can allow Beth to talk. There you go, Beth.
Oh, you can hear me now. I'm trying to find my camera next.
Okay, let me see.
I don't see a camera option.
Okay, let's see. More. Okay, let's try this. Now we can see you, kind of, maybe.
Yay! Hi, everybody.
My kitchen, everybody. At first, I didn't know where to have this because there's various states of construction in my house because we've got the COVID fever, so we're constructing things. But then I thought, what better place than a kitchen to have this conversation? The kitchen is the heart of the home, and where a bunch of us, and probably most of us, wish that we could hang out with our friends right now at this point. But we're going to do it virtually. We've actually had virtual game nights with my family and our friends. We've had virtual birthday parties. So why not a virtual girls chat? So we're going to talk about Mother's Day. We're going to cover a lot of things about Mother's Day, but I think it's important that we recognize that this week as Mother's Day is also Nurses Appreciation Week and Teachers Appreciation Week, as well as Military Spouse Appreciation Week. So there's a whole lot of people that we're appreciating this week. And those people, all of those positions take heart, they take commitment, and they take dedication. I promised Beth a Zoom call unlike one she's not had in the last 3 months. I promised it would be lighthearted and fun, and we would talk about the things that matter both to us, like families and children, other people's as well as our own. So Beth, why don't you start out? Why don't you tell me some of your favorite Mother's Day memories?
Well, Jill, thank you so much. Before I launch into that, I just have to say I was really happy to join today with the YWCA, because if you want to talk about an organization that supports mothers at all different phases of their life, across all of our communities, the YWCA does that. And Jill, you all have been stepping up to help mothers who are also frontline workers at this time with emergency childcare for the hospital workers. And I'm so grateful to you all and to be here. Those of us on the call who are mothers, I'm assuming we have a lot of mothers on the call, we really know how hard it is when you have to go to work, but you're stressed out. You're stressed out maybe because, in this time because of the illness, but you're stressed out because you have so many demands on yourself. And to have high quality childcare takes care of so much in terms of your emotional well-being. So I'm sure some of you are hyper stressed out as your childcare may not be available at this moment because of the COVID scare and public health concerns. But I'm happy to be with you. Jill, I thought I'd start with what I say to all young mothers around Mother's Day, and that is, keep your expectations low, ladies. All the upset, the number of Mother's Day I spent ending up closing myself in my room because I didn't think anyone fully appreciated me. And I was expecting something so much more. I think of that lost time. And then I think of the Mother's Days as I got a little older and realized it wasn't really about me. It was really about helping us enjoy the role of nurturers in our lives. And we always made the day bigger. The bigger you can make it, the better. So in our family, we now always recognize those people who aren't mothers, but who are like backup mothers for our kids. They themselves don't have kids, but they certainly are nurturers. So we've expanded it that way. But I had many wonderful Mother's Days, but they got better. The less I expected, the better they got. The simpler we kept the day, the better. I'd say my favorite memories are really getting outside with the kids on Mother's Day. going on a hike. We almost always went on a walk or a hike, depending on their age. But that was a great thing. And the other thing I thought about, what was my favorite Mother's Day gift? And it really wasn't jewelry. And Jill tipped me off to this, so I think she's going to share some of hers too. But there's something I keep on my dresser right now, and it's still there. I don't know if you can read it. Is it backwards?
Nope, you're good. Move over a little bit. Right there.
So the girls wrote this for me when I was looking at the writing, figuring it was probably like 4th grade and 2nd grade. When they were just we do a lot of quotes in the family. And so they made this one up. Life is precious. Live every day to its fullest. Help those who are needy, and you will feel amazing. And I remember opening it. It was just inside a card, and I did frame it that day, and it's still in its same frame. The glass has broken and been replaced. But my kids were understanding, live fully, help others, and when you help others, you feel good. And so as a mother, I thought, my job is done here. If they think that this is a quote that they made up to make me feel good. So anyway, it's a special gift, and it is really simple. In case there are others listening who are thinking about, what do I do for my mother? Keep it simple, people. Keep it simple. Keep your expectations low, and just try and have a day when you can relax and do something outdoors, or do a puzzle, a game. Try to yourself spend the day relishing the fact that you're a parent. Even though your children, for many of you, are never leaving the house right now, try to appreciate that. So I hope that's helpful, and I'm happy to answer any questions or give any other advice, Jill, but thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. I thought it would be something different for you. I know that, like I said, this is unlike any Zoom call you've done in the last 3 months. I wanted it to be extremely low key for you. So yeah, I was going to share some of the gifts that still are in display in my house, in my bedroom. So I started my journey working with children as a family child care provider back with the Army and the Navy. And so my children were my daycare children. And I remember one year my husband was deployed, and we made their candles, and I got to get all of them because otherwise they'll be mad. So they're candles, and I want to say it was in it looks like 1998. So I was probably pregnant with my youngest one. That's why I only have 3. I have 4 children. But they're their handprints that were embossed onto candles, and they sit on my dresser today because these are their little handprints. And my husband and my children have bought me jewelry, and they have sent me flowers, and they have done some really amazing gifts for me. But that is one of the gifts that I treasure because it's their little handprints. And then I have this little itty bitty jewelry holder. It sits on my nightstand for the nights when I forget to put my earrings away before I go to bed. I just drop them in there and they sit there. But it's something my child made. And my mom passed away in October of 2011. And when we were home for her funeral, we were stationed in Hawaii. When we were home for her funeral, we went, my dad, because of something that happened when his mom passed, had us go through all her jewelry while we were there. And I was going through my mom's good jewelry, and my dad bought my mom a lot of jewelry, enough that all grandchildren got, daughter-in-laws, even my husband's sisters got some of her jewelry because there was so much. But I found in my mom's jewelry box, and it was made in 1976. And it's this little girl, and it says, I love you. And it says, I love you, Jill. And it says 1976. And I made this when I was 6 years old. And it was in my mother's jewelry box with her most prized possessions or jewelry from my father. So I think that we need to really think about what is important to moms. Again, when my children were little, I finally stopped my husband. I said, can we not go out to eat anymore for Mother's Day? When you have 4 children under the age of 7, a restaurant is not ever a fun place. So we kind of converted to where we barbecued at home, and the kids were able to be as messy as they wanted, and barbecue was something easy my husband could cook, and it wasn't it wasn't high maintenance. And those are the memories I have. I do have a couple memories. I remember we were stationed in Guam, and I remember one Mother's Day I didn't feel good, and my son was 18 and he made me breakfast in bed. And then I got sick later, and he thought it was because of something he cooked, but I actually was having an appendicitis. So I had my appendix out later that day, on Mother's Day, at Naval Hospital Guam. But
Expectations, you see.
expectations. So I think that we just really need to focus on the spirit of what Mother's Day is. Our mothers and those, like you said, those nurturers in our lives right now are going through probably the toughest times of their lives. I routinely say I'm very thankful that my children are grown, because I'm an educator. I have a master's in education, but you couldn't pay me enough to homeschool my children. A lot of people had asked me that in the past, like, well, why don't you homeschool? And my thought process or my answer was always, have you met my children? They know everything already. And they're trying to juggle Zoom calls and trying to manage working at home with their spouses. And my husband and I work at opposite ends of the house. He works in that living room and I work in that living room. And occasionally we meet for lunch. But we've had to learn to find our groove. The first couple of weeks were a little rough. But we're in, and then you have moms who might not be working, who are concerned about, how is my family going to make it through this? How is my family going to come out of this the other side? And then we have moms that are nurses that are working and also homeschooling their children. And then we have nurturers and aunties and uncles who come in and help. I agree with Beth. My children had a lot of nurturers. As a military spouse, I had to rely on my tribe to raise my children. I know when we were stationed in Guam, there was times when I would be taking an 8-year-old. I didn't have an 8-year-old. My youngest was 14, but I would be taking an 8-year-old to dance practice because that's what it required of the tribe. So I think it's important that we recognize those people that so into our children's lives. And I always thought it was very meaningful that Teachers Appreciation and Nurses Appreciation was in the same week as Mother's Day. I thought that really sent a positive message. But I think we need to focus on building positive memories. All of you have been stuck in your house with your children for the last, I lost count. I don't even know how many weeks of captivity it's been. But you've been inside with your families and you're probably a little irritated with each other, and you're probably asking yourself, what's wrong with me as a parent, or what's wrong with my child? And I'm going to tell you right now, there's nothing wrong with either one of you. You're having natural reactions to the situations you're in. You know, and I read an article yesterday that kind of stuck with me. It was about a 2-year-old and how it said the two-year-old is a genius, because the 2-year-old, when he has those emotions or she has those emotions, they let those emotions out. Now, it might not be appropriate, but they let it out. While the rest of us hold it deep inside until it bubbles out into a pinched nerve in our neck, or a heart attack, or an ulcer, or a headache, whatever it is. So I think that it's important that we recognize that Mother's Day is not about jewelry. It's not about roses. It's not about fancy lobster dinners. It's about being in your home with your family. I have 4 children. My youngest is 21. He's married. I was going to show a picture, but that's just way too much technology for me. I'll probably lose everybody. Oh, thank you, Beth. There's Beth's family. I have 4 children. My youngest is married and he's in Washington State. He's an MA in the military. My next youngest child is married to a submariner, and they live, submariner, I'm sorry, I get in trouble. I say that wrong all the time. He's submariner and they live in Charleston, South Carolina. Then my next oldest child is in the Air Force and he is in Jersey. And then my daughter, oldest, lives with me. So Mother's Day looks very different for me. Mother's Days always look really different for my family. And I kind of want to bridge over into, Beth shared a little bit earlier about traditions. And I talked a little bit about this at Easter time, that, you know, you have, as a military family, when our first duty station was Washington State. We were married for like a hot second, and then we got transferred to Hawaii. So 2 19-year-olds stationed in Hawaii. I don't know what we were thinking. But Mother's Day looked very different for me because I didn't have my mom. And as a military family, we learned to create new traditions. My poor son, my youngest son, we were in Guam when he was a freshman in high school. So I don't know how much you all know about Guam. It's not ever going to tip over. Don't believe that news story. But he was on the football team. But in Guam, they're a day ahead of us. So Sunday football was really Monday 2 o'clock in the morning football. So the Super Bowl was on Monday at about 7 or 8 o'clock. So he spent his high school career eating breakfast during the Super Bowl. So now he thinks that that's the thing that's supposed to happen. The rest of America eats, chicken wings and nachos, and my child wants bacon and waffles. Because we had to create a new tradition because of the situation we found ourselves in. My children routinely watch with their cousins. They watch Goonies. My husband's best friend and his family was stationed in Washington. They grew up together, and he ended up being stationed in Hawaii with us. And our kids, all 7 of them, whether they're in the same room on New Year's Eve or not, they all watch the Goonies because that's the tradition our family created. And I tell you all these stories to say that it's important that you don't write Mother's Day off because you can't see your mom physically, or you can't take your wife out to breakfast or out to dinner, or you can't get out and buy her jewelry, whatever it is, but build your own traditions because your kids are going to remember the things that you did. They're going to remember the blanket forts. They're going to remember things that don't have anything to do with jewelry or lunches or dinners. And as a mom, I couldn't tell you, except for maybe one really messy Mother's Day we went out to eat, I couldn't tell you about any of those things, but I will remember these little handprints forever. These will be with me forever. So think of some new traditions you can start with your children. Think of some new things you can do. Do you have anything to add to that, Beth?
Well, I just love the whole tone, and I think there's a lot to be shared. A couple other things I wanted to say were that I think during this pandemic, it's been so hard. And I think I've been talking to parents and how hard this is with how everything's been broken. And I think it's important for moms and dads to think about routine and structure. Even if you haven't been able to get a routine or a structure so far that's been working for you, really take some time to think about that. It's really like another parent. It's like a boundary that the kids understand. We're going to read 2 stories and then you're going to go to sleep. And they say, no, I want a 3rd story. It's like, nope, we read 2 stories and then we go to sleep. And then you don't spend the next hour fighting about, oh, well, what's one more story? They love this one. I'm a good parent. I'll read them one more. Why am I being so mean? Think about things that you do in the day that signal to kids that this is time to switch gears, because that's hard for them. And with you working from home, I have a friend who was telling me that when it's time for them to start doing their schoolwork, she literally has a bell and she rings a school bell. And then at 11:45 in the morning, she hops off her Zoom calls and she rings the lunch bell. And then the kids come for lunch. And then at the end of the day, she rings the bell. It's like a little thing, but those kids learn, they're like, we are really animals. So it is like training animals. I always said this, I did 13 years of hard time as a toddler teacher. So I understand toddlers, and I will tell you, we're all toddlers, as Jill was just saying. And really setting up a routine that was clear and with lots of fun, but nope, this is when we're having dinner. Nope, you sit if you're going to eat. You don't walk around the house with food. Now, I'm not saying this is my family. And our kids would get up and I'd say, that's fine, you can leave the table, but your food's staying here. And it was the same thing in my classroom. You could eat at the table. When you get up and go, you tell me you're done and putting your lunch away. And they get to know those routines. And you have a routine at work and you maybe need to communicate with your boss. I cannot be on Zoom calls from 11:45 to 12:30 because that's time I need to give my kids in order to be able to get through the afternoon. So think about you and what works for you, and a routine that works for your family and works for you. So I think that's really important. The other important thing in this pandemic, which is hard to feel right now, but when you're going through a stressful time, I was talking to my daughter. So I'm a mother, but Mother's Day was always really hard for me because my own mother had a lot of mental health challenges. And so she had a really hard time at being a nurturing mother. And so I felt like my job in life was to be a nurturing mother. And my kids, like yours, are grown, Jill. And I do think I remember trying to find a Mother's Day card every year. It was so hard. because of the mixed feelings that I had. And I think we have to remember that. And that's why I always say, go to the nurturer. So who's nurturing you? On Mother's Day is a good day to remember that person, man, woman, whoever, that nurturing matters. So it was always sort of hard to find a Mother's Day card. But then as a mother, I just remember, because my mother's mental illness expressed in substance abuse, that the most important thing to me as a mother was putting my kids to bed every night, that I didn't drink, that I put them to bed at night, and that when they got up in the morning, they'd have a hot breakfast. And I remember when I got remarried, and my wife would say, why do you make a hot breakfast? There's so much to do in the morning. Well, that's our tradition. I know there's a lot to do, and I know I'm trying to get off to work, but that was just something that I did to say, it signaled to me that I was a mother. And even as the kids get older, they really need us. What I was going to say is, my daughter she's going to finish her master's in social work. She does immigration advocacy. And so she's determined. She had a lot of learning issues, but she was determined to go back to school. She's gone back to school. She's at Hunter College, and she's about to finish, but now she's living in a basement in Brooklyn. She moved in with her boyfriend about a month before the pandemic starts. And all of us know what it's like when you're adjusting to living with your boyfriend or spouse for the first time. She's in a basement in Brooklyn, a mile from the hospital that's had pretty much the most cases in the country. So she can't go out. She's going to school, and she's just really, really, really stressed out. And so she's been calling me. I talk to her a few times a week. But I just think my job as a mother is to nurture her and to listen to her and to support her at this time. We never stop needing our mothers. And I feel like probably the greatest feeling in my life is that I can look back on my time as a mother and say, I was there for my kids. They came first. It wasn't about me. It's like, sometimes I think, certainly Mother's Day growing up was always stressful in our house because it never was enough. And people that aren't necessarily balanced will say, well, I deserve this and I deserve that. And we've always said to our kids, you don't deserve anything. You've got, and we as mothers, we don't deserve anything. We have what we have. We're there to nurture our children. And I think the research is really clear that solid mental health actually comes when we give. When folks in the military come back and have PTSD, one of the things that they find that can really help them is getting involved in community service. And as mothers, I know it feels like we give and give and give. Sometimes my daughter will say, when do you stop giving? And I guess you stop giving when you can't give anymore. And you don't let people take advantage of you. You set limits. I get that. But I guess I wanted to end by saying Mother's Day can be pretty conflicted. And I think you're going to want to look back and say, well, that wasn't always great. I wasn't always my best person, but I gave it my best. And we took time on Mother's Day to appreciate taking care of each other, both the kids, us, and us, them. And I will close by saying, we're now at the age where in our family, my wife has stage 4 cancer, and she's doing pretty well right now. What I'm saying is now our kids take care of us. And so what we did for them comes back around, because if you show them how to nurture and care, when you need the care, they come back. And it's really special. It's a really special time in our lives to have the kids caring for us. It's so hard not seeing them. So for those of you that can be with your kids and hug your kids because you're isolated together, Jill and I are jealous. We will probably be a little more calm and peaceful. But I guess that's it. That was more than I needed to say.
No, and you know what? I have to say, Beth, I really appreciate you being transparent, because I think that in the Pinterest world, although TikTok is showing us the opposite of Pinterest moms, but in the Pinterest world and in the social media world, a lot of times we only see the put together mother. We don't see the mother who at the end of the day thinks, did I do enough? Or, the mother-daughter relationships that struggle because of mental illness or because of dysfunctional families. but to talk about those things and to, you know, and even me, like I remember when I sent my youngest daughter off to college, we lived in Guam and she was going to Hawaii. And I think I cried for 2 days straight. And I kept asking myself, did I do enough? Was I enough of a mother? Did I give enough? Because that was important to me. And I was writing on my finger the things that you were saying that I wanted to touch on. But I think that I'm going to let parents in on a little early childhood educator's secret. 2 of them. The first one is every day is not perfect in that classroom, just like every day is not perfect at home. You know,
we feel like frauds half the time. Like,
yeah.
Oh my God.
Those toddlers, I taught toddlers for 2 years and I don't ever want to do it again. I like preschoolers, but you know, but because we have the professional skills that we take a step back and we set up those schedules and we set up those routines, and parents, that's how we make it. We set up schedules, we set up routines. My husband, I had 1 year, I had 4 under the age of 7. He was deployed like 345 of those days. And my kids, and I did home daycare. My kids went to bed at 7 o'clock every night. I didn't answer the phone from 5 to 7 because that was their time. But that was their routine and that's what they needed from me. And that's how I controlled the chaos that was in their life. I made a commitment to be their covering, to control them. And I think that parents need to give themselves a break. If they don't finish the math sheet, you might get scoldings from the teacher, but you know, their mental health and how their relationship with you is more important than that math sheet. I don't want to get scoldings for telling you not to do their homework, but you know, pick your battles and pick when you do it and how you do it, and maybe take a step back because now you have till June 29th to say, hey, we're going to do it this way, or let them help you plan. Say, this is what we have to do. This math has to get done, but we're stuck in this house together. How do you think we can get this done together? And just create a plan and a routine, get their buy-in, because if you haven't met a 2-year-old, they don't like to be told what to do. I know 45-year-olds that don't know what, like to be told what to do, but get their buy-in and let them help you plan the your schedule, plan your routines and your expectations. I mean, if you set the expectation, it's going to take you a couple painful days, but after, it's just in Beth's right. We're trained. I had toddlers that I played a song and they knew if they didn't clean up, it wasn't time for lunch for them, because that was the expectation I set. So parents, first of all, don't be so hard on yourselves. And second of all, just take a deep breath and enjoy this time with your kids. I feel bad. I'm a horrible person, but every time somebody who was my age right now told me enjoy them when they're younger, I just wanted to I gave them stink eye, because I was like, are you out of your mind? I'm losing control of this situation. But, and I don't say it to be cliche, but really do enjoy this time with your children. I think it's important. And I appreciate you being transparent. I appreciate you sharing real things, because I think right now that's what moms need to hear.
I love your point about it not being perfect. I'm married to a teacher, and I just remember her the kids win so much, you know, and they wear you down. And, you know, the good thing is when you totally lose it, you can wake up the next morning and say, I was more angry than I needed to be, but here's what got me going. And we're starting new today. And I found that was another really important thing, is that I know because of my mother's challenges, she could go 2 weeks and not talk to me. And I remember that so fully. And I never wanted my kids to wake up the next day and have me whatever happened. There were consequences. They could stay mad at me, but every day was a new day. I think parents, because your kids may not show you how much, they always show you how much they think about what you say and do. It can be easy to say, well, I've got to show them because they didn't even feel that. They felt it. And I just think it's the safest thing in the world for kids to know every day I wake up is a new day. Even if there's a consequence that lasts 2 weeks. And believe me, I remember my kids were fighting over what to watch on TV. They went off to school and they came home and the TV was gone from the house and it didn't come back for a month. You know, so there was consequence that lasted a month, but my anger was that evening when they were done for the night and went to bed, and the consequence followed. But the openness to start a new day, I think, is a really important lesson that parents can teach their kids. And I think as a teacher, you know, there were days when kids really were not behaving in a way that was appropriate, but you always start the day fresh the next day. And I think that's a lesson we can all learn too.
Yeah, and I think it helps to not take the behavior is sending you a message. It's not disrespect. It's I've had it with whatever's going on, or I can't cope with whatever's going on.
Right. And the other, I'll give you my last toddler tip. My last toddler tip that lasts for life, because it's important in your relationships too with adults, is if you find yourself in your head saying, they just won't listen, okay? They just won't listen. It almost always means you're not listening, that something is leading to that behavior. I'm going to give an example before this ends, where I taught toddlers. So I had 2 mattresses, one in the book area and one in a gross motor area. And the kids kept jumping in the book area. And I would say, this is not for jumping, and walk them over patiently to jump in the gross motor area. If you need to jump, here's where you jump, back and forth, back and forth. And they just weren't listening. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. So I came in over the weekend to change the room around, because as a teacher, you're like, when things are going south, you just keep trying new things, and changing the room is one of the things. So I step on the mattress in the book area, and it was like, ga-boing, ga-boing, ga-boing. And then I went to the mattress in the gross motor, and was it? I switched the mattresses, and I never had the problem again. But in me saying, why don't they listen? But it's just symbolic of, if you get to that point where they're doing the same thing over and over again, you have to figure out, what are they trying to get out of this? And then change your behavior. You have to listen a little harder to their behavior. So that was always my trick as a parent and as a teacher. And I found myself, they just won't listen. And I'm like, oh, my cue. So I'll stop there. Great to see everybody. Thank you for having me, Jill.
Thank you, Beth. Happy Mother's Day.
Yeah, you too. I have to go off to another meeting.
Go zoom off, my friend.
Zoom away.
So I wanted to touch, Beth kind of touched on it, and I touched on it when I shared the Mother's Day gift that I found when my mom passed. Mother's Day can be hard for you when you first, anytime you lose. My mother's been gone. It was 2011. This is 2020. So it'll be 9 years this year. And I remember the first year she passed away. It was 2012, and we just got news that we were moving to Guam, which felt more like a sentence to me, but we're moving from Hawaii to Guam. And I remember spending the entire day, we owned a house in Hawaii, and we were getting ready to move to Guam. We had to rent our house out. I remember spending the entire day painting walls and painting doors and just getting the house ready. And I think I cried the whole day. It was a really hard day for me that first time. And then the next year was my, when I had my appendicitis, so I had a distraction. And then the third year, I believe we were in Hawaii for high school graduations. So I was a little bit distracted. I think the first year that was the hardest for me when I was back home. So I have a friend, my husband's best friend, his mom passed away. She lived in Rhode Island, he lived in Hawaii. And I think the grief lasted a little bit longer because I wasn't used to having my mom in my everyday life. I lived in Hawaii, she lived in New York. So I remember the first time I went home after, I hadn't been in my dad's house. I think it had been 5 years, 6 years in my parents' house after my mom had passed. And that was really hard. And the first year I was home with my sisters was really hard. Until you lose your mom, you can't really explain it. But I have a wonderful mother-in-law. I have amazing sisters. I have amazing sister-in-laws. I have my tribe. And I have my moms that I've adopted. I have Mary Jane, and I have Kathy from Groton. I've just adopted these people as my mom because sometimes a girl just needs her mom. And, you know, I used to love Mary Jane at work. She would come in and she would just look at me, and she would just walk in and open her arms and give me a hug because she knew that's what I needed. So you never really get over the loss of your mom. It can be really hard, or if your mom's not in your life, like Beth was kind of talking about. So Beth took that and she turned that into a positive in her own parenting. She wanted to make sure that she made a difference, and she didn't want her children to feel the way she felt. For me, I've just surrounded myself with amazing women. And how I get through it. I mean, we have a tree. I don't think it's going to bloom this year. My mom's favorite flowers was lilacs. And I was blessed enough to buy a house. I had no idea. We bought our house in January. And I had no idea there was a lilac tree in the back until that first Mother's Day. So I won't get to see, I don't think I'm going to get to see my tree this year, but just know that you're not alone. And if you miss your mom or your mom's not in your life, reach out to somebody. Don't spend this Mother's Day isolated. Don't spend this time alone. There's a whole tribe of women. I couldn't survive without my tribe. I have military spouse tribes. I have my YWCA spouse tribes. I have, my friends who have been my friends since we first moved to Hawaii, my church friends. I have friends all over the world, and I continue to add to them. So surround yourself with those women who celebrate you. I was thinking about a quote last night, and I probably won't get it right, but find your tribe or your group of women who are going to fix your crown when it gets a little crooked. Shannon, you fix my crown a lot, but find that group of women who support you and encourage you. And that's how you get through Mother's Day without your mom. I remember saying that my first Mother's Day. How do you have Mother's Day when you don't have a mom? So just you take it one day at a time. It never goes away. It just changes. One of my favorite, I couldn't find it for this Zoom because we're in this reorganizing and construction stage, but I have a picture of my mom. It's probably my junior year in high school, and I can only tell by the hair and the clothes I'm wearing that it's my junior year in high school. And it's my mom and my sisters and my brother in the backyard of my grandparents' house. And it's super funny. My sister's going to hate me for saying this, but you know that little girl in that meme that shakes the bottle? That is my sister, and she looks like that sister in the pictures. If you guys have any questions, I just got a note. If you could go to the YWCA Live Facebook and add your questions in there, they will get them over to me. I really want to thank you guys for sticking with us in our first inaugural round and working through technical issues if we have any. I don't think we've had one, but you might not have known it, but we've had one. And just shoot your questions to Live and they will shoot them to me. Let me just make sure I'm not missing any of them. Okay, so I wanted to jump on. So we talked about these were super easy to make, but I'm going to give dads or even older siblings an idea of what to make for Mother's Day. So I saw this super cute thing, and obviously these hands aren't my children's hands because none of them are living here with me right now. But what it is, it's a piece of square cardstock. You can use any size paper. You can use any color paper. I've seen it where one of the ones that I saw on Pinterest was actually, it was solid construction paper, and every other one, like mine is solid and then it's a pattern, solid and then it's a pattern. But it's all the hands of the people who lived in the house. But I actually saw somebody use newspaper to break up their colors well. I've also seen people use paint. So dad will do his paint, or the oldest person will do their paint first, or actually the person with the biggest hand, because if we did this, my hand would not be the biggest after my husband. I have a son who's 6'3", a son who's 5'11", and I think my daughter's 5'9". So I am the shortest, or as I like to tell people, fun size. So you arrange it however it works for you to get it from largest to smallest. And you can either paint or you can trace it on different color paper and glue it on. And this family has 4 people. And it says, when the world stayed apart, we stayed together. And it says lockdown 2020. If these were our real handprints, as soon as this pandemic was over, I would buy a frame for Michael's, a big square one, and put it in there. Like I said, the handprint gift that my children made for me is, they sit on my dresser on top of my jewelry box, and they're very important to me because their hands will never be that small again. And obviously my mother felt the same way when she kept this. I don't even know where this chain came from. She kept this, it was made with Shrinky Dinks. I don't know how many of you remember Shrinky Dinks, but Shrinky Dinks is basically plastic that you can draw on with markers, and you put it in your oven and it shrinks. And I remember making this. So when I found it, I knew exactly what it was, but it was with my mom's good jewelry. And I took it because it's important to me. I mean, my daughters, one of them has my dad's school ring, and the other one has my mom's school ring. But that was one of the things that I wanted because it was important to me. So when you are thinking about making a Mother's Day gift. You don't have to go out and buy one because some of us are unemployed, some of us aren't working, some of us are furloughed. Finances may not be what they want, so you want them to be. So you may not be able to buy your wife or your mom roses or jewelry, but you can certainly make her something that she's going to cherish forever. Again, Mother's Day is not about lunch and lobsters and jewelry. It's about showing mom and giving mom the memories to carry her through when you're not here, because like I said, my kids are all over the world. Another thing that dads feel a lot of pressure about is breakfast in bed. So let me tell you how breakfast in bed goes from mom's perspective. If your kids are younger, so I'll use my nieces, for example, they're 8 and 6. If my brother-in-law had to make breakfast with them, it would be much different than if my brother, who my nieces are, I want to say 14 and 16, they may be 13 and 16. Kendall just had a birthday. It's much different. So if you're a mom laying in bed and you are awake, mom is never sleeping when you're making breakfast, because first of all, moms never sleep because we can't, we're automatically wake up early. And second of all, we hear you. You're not really quiet. So she's laying in bed and she's thinking about who's getting burned, who's got a knife, what are they doing out there? What is what they're making going to taste like? So dads, cut yourself some slack. If you have younger kids, it's the easiest thing in the world for them to make. Get some yogurt, put it in a bowl. Get a banana. Give them a cutting board. And a banana can be cut with a plastic knife. Just let them slice their little banana hearts away. Oops, my bananas are rolling off my thing. Nobody's going to get cut. Nobody's going to get burned. So you do your banana. You give the other one a strawberry. They might have to hold it with 2 hands. I'm going to try to hold my thing up. That strawberry will cut with a plastic knife. And then you let your little darlings, give them the bowl of yogurt. You let them create a masterpiece for mom. Nobody got burned. Nobody got cut. And to a mom who's going through the pandemic, now dads, you're going through the pandemic right now too, I understand. But to a mom who's going through a pandemic, this will be the best breakfast in the world. Oops, it's sliding everywhere. Don't tilt it on the side when you give it to mom. Keep it simple. Keep your celebrations this weekend simple. Learn to step back. There's a lot of emotions going on in what we're doing today. And I kind of wanted to go back to some of the things that Beth talked about. This happens to teachers too. So every year you get this new group of kids, whether it's toddlers, preschoolers, 4th graders. And what you tried last year might not work. So every year you have to create a system that works for those children. And sometimes in a group of 20 preschoolers, you have 20 different systems because you're meeting the individual needs of those children. So I just want parents to be really mindful of your house doesn't have to look like homeschooling next door. My sister, she cracks me up. The first day they did homeschooling, she lined my nieces up. She had them put their backpacks on. She had them walk around the yard like they were walking to school. They had recess when they got there. Then they had to line up to go inside. They call her Mrs. Rosel, and we pick on her because my brother-in-law, at first he was the art teacher, I think, or the math teacher, but now he's the music teacher. So we started calling him Mr. Schuster from Glee. So when I call her, I'll say, hi, is Mr. Schuster? How's Mr. Schuster going? But she also created a space in her house where that is where homeschool happens. She set those boundaries that Beth is talking about. And I think parents, you have to stop being so hard on yourself. Don't expect homeschool to look like it looks like next door or how it looks on Pinterest. Please don't have it look like it looks like on TikTok. But it's going to be individual for your family. It might be that your mornings at work are slow, so you can do more schoolwork in the morning. So that's how you adjust your schedule. Or it might be the afternoons are slower for you at work and you can get some schoolwork in for them. So that's when you do it. It might be that your child doesn't do well getting up early. So maybe you do it a little bit later, but you just do what works for your family. And when your children start acting up, they're sending you a message. One of my friends, I was on the phone with her. She's one of my coworkers. and we're talking about something. It's easy for her to talk to me during a little bit more chaotic times in her home because I get what kids are like. That's what I do for a living. And her daughter, she had asked her daughter to read a story. Well, her daughter chose not to read a story. She chose to draw a family. And when she showed it to her mom, the dad was sad, the mom was sad, the fish was sad, and the dog was sad. It was just a sad, sad picture. And what I told my friend is, it doesn't matter that she didn't read the story. She worked through those emotions she was having in an appropriate way. Drawing that picture helped her cope with the frustration of where she is. I want you all as adults to stop and think about how you feel right now. Last Friday, my husband and I had an argument about shiplap at Home Depot, and we both put ourselves in timeout. Till Saturday morning, I went upstairs, he watched TV, and it was all good. But we're adults and we understand what's happening. We understand what's happening in the world. We have the verbal skills, the cognitive skills, the social emotional skills, the language skills to be able to express ourselves. So we're able to work through those situations. Now, I want you to imagine yourself being a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 6-year-old, 10-year-old, not understanding what's happening in the world outside, and not being able to fully express how you feel. So your children, there's nothing wrong with them. They're just trying to work through those emotions. So when they show you the sad picture, let them work it out. Let them work through those emotions. Be there for them if they need help working them out. And cut yourself some slack. We don't need to be perfect parents right now. We just need to, and when I say perfect, I mean perfect according to what people outside of your home say. You don't have to do so many projects. You don't have to post so many Instagram posts. You don't have to do all the things that the world expects. Do what Beth did and take a pause and listen to what your family needs from you. So I am looking for questions. I don't think we have any. Am I right, Yvonne? I don't have any questions. I do want to let you know, though, while you're on here, let me see if I can do this without making a huge. How can families be active with kids inside and outdoors to get off some stress and burn energy? So inside, this is what teachers do. I remember we were in Hawaii and it literally rained for 40 days and 40 nights. It got so bad that we couldn't even cross our playground because there was so much water flowing through it. So what teachers do is, and I'm looking at my kitchen right now, we have one of those high tables with the high stools. They have about 8 chairs that go around. It's a big square. Create an obstacle course with blankets. Let your kids crawl through them. Teachers do it in the classroom all the time. On those crazy days when we've been in there because it's snowing or it's raining and the kids' energy is at the highest, create obstacle courses with blankets, pillows, chairs, create forts. Play Simon Says, YouTube. So my nieces, when they're here, they put it on. What do they put it on? I'm trying to remember what they put it on. Amazon Music, because Amazon Music has the words and they can all read. So what they do is they sing and dance to Amazon Music because the words are up there and they can read them. Have a dance off. We have hula hoops down there. I don't have any kids under the age of 21 who live in this house, but we have hula hoops in the playroom down there. My niece's hula hoop. To get outside, go for a walk. Go for a walk. Teach your children. Here's YWCA New Britain. Heather over there, their fitness instructor. She does trauma-informed yoga, and she's been doing yoga classes online. So go ahead and check that out. YouTube has yoga classes online. You can do exercise classes online. Get your kids out and moving. I think it's supposed to be windy this weekend. Teach them how to pick up sticks. My nieces were here actually it was in the fall, and we're shutting down and we paid them so much per acorn or whatever. They picked up pine cones. Get them out there, get them moving. If you go to, this is where I was going to go before I got that question. If you go to the YWCA Hartford, ywcahartford.org, if you go to our website, we have activities. I think we're up to 3 or 4 weeks, one activity for every day of the week. We did take a spring break. But there's activities that deal with math, science. There's a lot of fine motor, gross motor. There's art on there. There's literacy. But if you go there, the activities with the materials that you need and a link to complete the activity as well as instructions, as well as we connected to the teaching strategies, gold, goals and strategies which align with Connecticut ELDS, early learning standards. We align them with that, so you know what your children are learning about. So go over there and check out, it's called Kids Corner, and we have all kinds of activities on there. If you are one of our families, check your email, because we update our Hi Mama app and we send out activities weekly. And also, if you go to our ywcahartford.org website, you will see my blog post up there. There's some blogs about how to help your children work through what they're doing and the emotions, and how to be kind to yourself, and how to create new memories and new traditions. And one of the things I wanted to do, but it won't work because there's only 2 of us, but if I had a house full of kids, what I would do is I would create a COVID time capsule. And I would bury it in my backyard, and I would have my children put things in there that are going on during COVID. But just think of the memories when your kids look back, what they're going to remember about this time, and just make the most of it. You will never again get this break. You will never again. Somebody called it something COVID. I can't remember. Something had to do with COVID and vacation, COVIDation. I don't remember it, but you're never going to have this break again. You're never going to have this time to be with your family uninterrupted, where you don't have all the things that pull at us from society. You may have too much of your family at certain times, and I understand that. So be kind to yourself. You could do what my husband and I do. We work in opposite sides of the house, and we don't talk to each other till 4 o'clock because we're both busy and because we both need our structure and our routine. But so go over to the website and read those blog posts. There's also, I think it's YWCA info. We have if you go to our website and you want to send us a question or an email, and you have questions about anything I'm talking about, or anything that the YWCA, any of the services we offer, you can go over there and send it to our email, and that department will make sure it gets to the appropriate director and the person who can help you with that. So our goal is to be here for you. I know it's really hard times like this to be with your children, and you don't have a lot of social interaction. You don't have those people that you can talk to and blow off steam because you're not able to see those people. So being stuck in your house with your family can be challenging. So be kind to yourself, talk to your tribe. I do want to share, let me see if I can do this without messing it up. Let me see. Again, this is our first. All right, let me do this first before I do that, guys. Hang on, let me get rid of this. Now let me find the picture I need. Okay, I'll keep talking while I find the picture I need. Here's the picture I need. Okay, I want to share with you guys our next Lunch and Learn. This is something we've had to reinvent what we do for our community because we are in different times, and we've been allowed an opportunity to reinvent our business and how we serve Hartford and the people who live in Hartford and our region. So just do this. Am I sharing my screen? I hope I'm sharing my screen. Our next Lunch and Learn is going to be next Thursday, I believe. Was it next Thursday? It's the 21st. Don't quote me on next Thursday. Let me move this because I can't read that. It's May 21st from 12:30 to 1:30, and it will be our own CEO of the YWCA Hartford region, Adrian Cochran, and our special guest, Adrian Barton Reeves, who is the CEO of Connecticut Paid Family and Medical Leave Insurance Authority. And they are going to have some conversations with you about things that are important to women in these times, and that are as well as important to our families. We're going to continue doing these Lunch and Learns so that we can support you any way we can. If you have some ideas of Lunch and Learns we can do, go ahead and go to our website or go ahead and comment in the comments, and they'll moderate it, and we can add those to the things that we plan on doing. But we are here for you. We're in this together. I know everybody says that, but I promise you, I got through my husband's military career as a mom by being in it together with the group of people who supported me and encouraged me and helped me be the best parent I could be. So I wish you all a very, very happy Mother's Day. You are, most of the people who I know are listening are near and dear to my heart. You're very important people to me, and I'm very blessed to be where I am and have the friends and coworkers and family I have. So I encourage you all to enjoy your family, coworkers, and your tribe, and be kind to yourself Mother's Day. Dads, go easy on yourself. Do your handprints and do your bananas and yogurt. It'll bring down your anxiety level. It'll bring down mom's anxiety level. And if you have any questions, reach out to us. We're here for you. Thank you and happy Mother's Day.